Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, where you may discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships. Whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind, God is concerned about that which concerns you. And so we are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is brought to you daily by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just ordinary water. This is Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, we thank you for your support and for your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. And I want to remind all of our listeners and viewers, first of all, I want to say to all of you who have communicated when you changed out your phones, and our app it says on our app, gone fishing. However, I have not gone fishing. We are in the process of trying to redevelop our app due to a system integration problem with both Apple and the Android Play Store. So we are asking that you will direct your contributions, your donations. If you cannot get on our app at New Life-Delaware until that has been redeveloped, if you'll go to our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com or NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, but you can go right to the ministry page, New Life Ministries with an S, international.com. Go to the contribution donation page down on the search bar, and you will be able to go right to the push pay contribution system. So we thank you for your continued support, and we are here to support you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. In doing so, we are available on all of our platforms: YouTube Live, we are Facebook Live, we are RadioFreeNetwork.com live. Go to RadioFreeNetwork.com, click on radio, the drop box will appear. Click on New Life. Every broadcast, video broadcast, will be available to you. Every video and audio will be available to you. And of course, we invite you to tune in to our 24-hour internet radio station, WKAP Faith Empowerment Radio. You can go to our internet radio station, Faith Empowerment Radio, by typing in rdo.to/WKAP. And you can hear music that will encourage you, empower you, and inspire you 24 hours a day. This is our way of staying connected to everyone, making certain that your spirit is right throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, and throughout the year. So tune in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. WKAP Faith Empowerment Radio. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you finally see life from a more positive perspective. And you want to know, how do you avoid slipping back into that pessimistic state of mind. This is a very interesting question. This happens so often to so many people when they start to look at things from a different perspective. Often it's because good things begin happening in their life, and the moment that things don't go the way they think they should go, they slip back into a pessimistic state of mind. They slip back. I like to use the analogy, you don't ever want to go back to Egypt. I think about the children of Israel who God brought them out of Egypt where they had been enslaved, told them that they were going to a land that was filled with milk and honey. It was the promised land. It was where God was going to make certain that they were blessed and that they would prosper and that they would have good success. And yet, when they got out into the wilderness, because they couldn't see the vision, because they couldn't see what God had already prepared for them, they actually wanted to go. There was a point in time when they wanted to go back to Egypt. And the reason is because they stopped looking at it from an optimistic perspective. They started looking at it from a pessimistic perspective, just as you said. You've got to think about this. They wandered in the desert for 40 years. 40 years they wandered in the desert on a trip that should have taken them no time. But because they were kicking and screaming the whole way, they were, first of all, it wasn't, I can't see the promised land. I can't see milk and honey. All I see is a desert. Then it was, we don't have enough meat. Then it was, we don't have this, we don't have that. So God gave them everything they needed and they still complained. And God got tired of their complaining and their murmuring. And he said, okay, you're going to wander until that generation dies off. The generation that has no faith in me. Because without faith it is impossible to please God. So, I'll share a little story that happened to me recently. My son called me on Saturday evening. He's traveling on business. He called me and he had a friend with him on the phone. And they wanted to talk about the perspective of our faith, putting our faith in action, putting our faith to work. They wanted to talk about the dynamics of that. And it was really a good discussion. We had that discussion for a period of time on Saturday night. And first of all, he texted me and said, "Dad, are you still up?" And because he knows I like to get my rest at night, 8 hours, hopefully. That doesn't always happen, but that's my goal. And so I said, yes, I'm still up, because I was. And we had our golf tournament on Saturday, and of course I had, that was planned on the calendar, but I still had some studying I wanted to do to prepare for the Sunday sermon, just to complete that. And so we had a discussion. And it was a great discussion about always being, my son is like me. He sees the glass half full, always. The glass is always half full. And we talked about what that takes to accomplish that. And what that takes is faith. And you have to continue to increase your faith so the glass fills up. And then what eventually happens is your glass will overflow. And then it will spill out onto other people. The blessings of God will spill out onto other people because your cup overfloweth. And so your cup overflows and then begins to saturate the life of others. So we have to be mindful. And I'm going to say to all of our listeners and viewers, please be patient, because for whatever reason, we just lost our internet connection. However, we are going back live again. And so I want to say this. It's real important. I have no control over the internet. We're live, so these things are going to happen. And so I say all of that to say, we always have to be faithful. We have to be full of faith. And so I talked to you about the children of Israel who went out into the desert, and all they could see was the desert. They couldn't see the promise. And therefore, they didn't stand on the promise. So they constantly murmured and complained. One of the things that you can do to examine where you are in your faith is figure out, really look at how much time you spend murmuring and complaining. Because that really is the level of faith. If you're someone who is not complaining about everything that occurs during the course of your day, your level of faith is in a different place than those who spend their time murmuring and spend their time complaining about what God isn't doing and what God hasn't done. You must realize that life is always going to keep moving forward, and because life continues to move forward until the day the Lord calls each of us home, as long as life continues moving forward, we have to expect, we have to have an expectation of faith. We have to have an expectation that good things are going to happen. That doesn't imply that life happens to us all, that bad things do happen to good people. But it's how we respond when bad things occur. You know, if we just lose our mind every time something bad in our life occurs, we're really not exercising our faith. We're not allowing our faith to take over in that situation, because we cannot control everything. So I just made a comment and announced that we lost internet here for a moment. And I'm sure it's due to the atmospheric pressure. And I mean, I don't know exactly how that works, but it's the World Wide Web, which means that whatever's going on in the world that we have no control over is going to occur. So, you know, we lost internet connection. But if I had lost my mind over losing internet connection and said, you know what, I'm just shutting it down today, we wouldn't be able to continue to broadcast. And the reason that we broadcast is not for us, but for all of us. We don't do the broadcast because we just want to do a broadcast. We want to do the broadcast because we made a promise to God that we would be here as long as God allows us to be here, that we would be here to impact the lives of others, to share what God is speaking every day for all of us. So you've got to realize that as long as life continues moving forward, that because it's moving forward, it is forward for you. In other words, even if today isn't the best day you've ever had, it's still a day that the Lord has made, and we should rejoice and be glad in it, even when it comes to an end. Because tomorrow's a new day. There's new mercies every day. And because there's new mercies, that means that there's new opportunity and new potential to do great things. So that has to be our expectation. Our expectation has to be that something great is going to occur in our lives. Our expectation has to be that God is in control of all things, and whatever He desires to do in you and through you is going to be better than we could ever have imagined for ourselves. And so I say that to say this: you don't have to go back to that state of mind. That's a choice. All you have to do is keep moving forward with positive thoughts and doing the work necessary to get positive results. I know this really sounds very simple, but however, we often try to go back to Egypt because we don't want to face the fact that we have to go through the wilderness to get to the promise. And then we have to go through the promise. We have to get to the promise before we get to the palace. In other words, you can't expect everything that exceeds abundantly above all that you can ask or think. If you're not willing to exercise your faith, pursue the promise. Pursue your purpose is pursuing the promise. You have to know your purpose to pursue your purpose. And then the purpose leads to your promise. That's where the land of milk and honey exists for your life. And once we get to the promise, we know the palace is paradise. That's where heaven is. But until you go there, I prefer to use that. However, until you get to the palace, until you get to heaven, God says you can live in the fullness of me. The fullness of God. I often talk about the fullness of God because that is the place that we desire to dwell, in the fullness of God. And then we want our children to dwell in the manifestation of not only the fullness of God, but we want them to live in the manifestation of the fullness of God and the maximized fullness of God. There's a difference between that. The maximized fullness of God is when so let me break this down. The maximized fullness of God is when we leave an inheritance for our children's children unto the fourth and fifth generation. We don't spend enough time thinking about how to work to that end, because we're so busy living with what we have today. Okay, life is good. I'm living well. This is what we say. I'm living. We may not say it verbally, but to ourselves. I'm living well. Everything's fine. I'm in good health. My children are in good health. You're in a good place of life. You have a great quality of life. Because we've got all the particles of God. And this is part of what my son and his friend had a conversation about on Saturday evening, is that we don't want to just live with particles of God. We want to live in the fullness of God. And that means that our life is so full of the blessings of God that it spills over onto others. And what that means is not giving it to others. We don't give anyone a handout. We give people a hand up. But when your cup becomes so full that it begins to spill over on others, it means that they look at your life and are inspired to work to accomplish what you've accomplished, because God is not the respecter of persons. See, we got that confused. We thought that meant when my cup runneth over, it means that we are supposed to give to others. This is something that's been taught in churches that we have really been miseducated about, because it's about give to others. But if you give a man a fish, he'll eat today. If you're an example and teach him how to fish, he'll eat forever. Now that doesn't mean that you can't give anything to anybody. It just, you can give anyone a hand up. The handout is not going to help. A handout is not a helping hand. A hand up is a helping hand. We've got to know the difference. So when your cup runneth over and the blessings of your life begin to spill over onto the life of others, it's because your example has given them something that will inspire them, and your example will give them something they can emulate to improve and enhance the quality of their own lives. So I'm going to encourage you to stay in that positive mindset. Always look at life as a new day dawning and live to experience the fullness of God. Live your life on purpose, with purpose, for the promise that God has made to each and every one of us, that it's his desire that we shall prosper and be in great health, even as our soul has prospered. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. If you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill. At T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you want a new position, a new position of employment. And you said you've been sending out your resume to a couple of companies. You haven't gotten the response that you are looking for or that you're expecting. And what you want to know is, how do you get companies to be interested in you, and so that you can receive a new position, a new employment for employment. So, I'm gonna give you something that God spoke to me some time ago for my daughter, and I'll share this. So if you're in a current place of employment, which you are, you have a professional environment right now, and you're looking to move into another professional environment. One of the things I tell people all the time, and this is real simple case of employment search. You have to look at what companies you might be interested in working for. You don't want to just look for a job. The problem is most people look for a job and they end up looking for one job to another. You've got to look at, first of all, what's your skill set? And then you have to say, does my skill set fit within the companies that I'm interested in working for? And you then have to say, I'm going to identify those companies, I'm going to make a list, I'm going to build a database. This will exercise your muscle, the brain muscle, so that you can prepare to work for the company that you desire to work for. And let me tell you how that works. So the company you desire to work for, when you select 3 of them, in whatever field you're in, select 3 of them, and then decide which one would be your preferred company of those 3. You're going to send your resume to all 3, but you're going to, what would be your preferred destination? And then once you, and one of the ways that you determine that is you can look in every city, because you're not in our area, but because I give you name some companies for suggestions, but you look in your city and you can do research to find what are the best companies in your state to work for or in your region to work for. You can determine that just by what's written in print media, for example, because there are magazines that will tell you great companies to work for. You can find it online, great companies to work for, and then target that company in this way. Don't only send them a resume, but find out what their social responsibility is. And you can generally find that online when you research the company. You can find out what their social responsibility is. Find out if there's photos of them doing, if they have an event section, photos of them doing events. What charitable causes are they involved in? And if they're having a charitable event, or they're participating in a charitable event, or some type of charitable activity, volunteer. In addition to working your current job, volunteer. Because what happens is when you go out to volunteer, there's always going to be someone there in leadership, and then there's going to be other company employees. You may not see the CEO, you might, but you may not see the CEO at the event. But someone in leadership is going to be there. because that's part of their responsibility. And then you have the opportunity to exchange business cards with them. You know, one way to find a job is when you have one. That's a good defining moment. If you're currently employed, you're not without employment and you're searching for a position. Companies like hiring people who are employed by another company because you have a track record. But then you can exchange business cards. You can, when they ask you why you are volunteering at their event, or why are you volunteering at the charitable event that they're involved in, tell them because when you were researching their company, you were interested in going to work for their company. When you were researching their company, you saw that their company is interested in the same type of philanthropic efforts that you're interested in. That's going to put you ahead of the game. And then the person in leadership may say to you, okay, have you applied? Have you sent in your resume? You can tell them yes. And they may say to you, and then even if they don't say to you, send me your resume, say to them, but I'd love to send you my resume, and would you take a look at it and see if there's something within the company that would be a fit for me? These are methods of seeking employment that people don't use because most people don't want to spend 2 hours volunteering somewhere. You meet a different group of people. You're not at your company meeting the same people that you're working with already. You're meeting new people who might be able to facilitate an opening for you to have a new employment opportunity. We've got to learn to volunteer. But we're so busy being engaged with entertainment and finding things that we think are going to give us some joy. How about a new position with a raise or an increase in income? That ought to give you some joy. It's certainly going to give you a better quality of life. But a lot of people, when they're applying for positions, they're looking for a job. They're not looking for the position that offers them the best fit. So one of the things I told my daughter when she was in college, my wife and I had a conversation with her, and we told her, go and volunteer. Find a nonprofit and volunteer. Look at the community development corporations, look at charitable organizations, but go and volunteer somewhere. And out of that, eventually became a job for her. And the reason that I'm sharing that story is because this is something that is going to help every person who is looking for a job find a cause to volunteer for, particularly for in an area that, when I say in an area, meaning some philanthropic endeavor that the company that you want to work for is involved in. Because they want people in their company that are like-minded, who have the same interests that they have in social responsibility. You got to be strategic. You can't just go and volunteer anywhere because you think it's going to allow you to meet new people. That's another social activity that you can do. But when you're talking about from a professional perspective, you don't want to just wait to feed people at Thanksgiving just because it's Thanksgiving. You can do that too. But you've got to be strategic about this, particularly when it comes to looking for a new position. You've got to be strategic, and you've got to make certain that while you're searching, you're not just searching for a job, but you're searching for a professional environment that's going to allow you to build your career and build a better quality of life. So I want to encourage everyone, start thinking more strategically about the steps you want to take as you continue to move forward in your professional career, in your professional life, and we all have to be more strategic in our personal life also. We can't just spend time with the same people we've always spent time with. If they're not working to move forward like you're working to move forward, if they're not trying to build a better quality of life like you're trying to build a better quality of life, you build a better quality of life first, and then be an example to them that will inspire them to build a better quality of life. That's how we keep moving this life that God has given to us all, this great life that God has given to us all. Continue moving it forward. 3D, today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast has been brought to you by Fiji Water. A taste of paradise will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery. And you'll save money at FijiWater.com. May God bless you today. May God keep his face turned towards you.